Hi guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome to Star Drifter. This is a science fiction adventure game by the designer Ken Kennedy. Now Ken has previously done a game called Drifter, which is more sort of spaghetti western, sort of Wild West, cowboy focused game. And this is a science fiction version of that, but there are some differences in terms of how the game works. Now, what exactly is it? Well, if you have played a game called Barbarian Prince, or, like I say, the game called Drifter that Ken had done before, you know exactly how this game's going to be. It is science fiction Barbarian Prince, but the rules, I find the rules to be easier, but it's in the vein of a evolved Gamebook or choose your own adventure book like the old Final Fantasy and the old Lone Wolf books before. In those books, you used to read a passage and it used to give you some options afterwards. If you decide to fight, go to this paragraph. If you decide to flee, go to that paragraph. This game, Star Drifter, is that kind of game, but there's not as much narrative, there's not as much story provided in the game in terms of the text, but there is a lot more events, a lot more things that can happen, a lot more variety. So I think that this could definitely appeal to the adventure game crowd, but also to the game book crowd who are okay with losing that element or a part of that element of the storytelling for more events, for more things to do, for more variety. So I definitely think it's worth looking at by the game book crowd as well. Now, currently, this game is on DriveThruRPG. I will leave the links below in the description. And like I say, at the time of recording, it's actually part of a bundle deal with the Drifter, the Wild West version. And I think it's about $10. So you can get both of the games for, I think, $10 as this special bundle. And after playing this one, I have the Drifter. Like I say, I purchased the bundle. I haven't printed the Drifter out yet, but I'm seriously considering putting that on the channel as well. But the reason I did Star Drifter first is because I'm not the biggest fan of what are they called, spaghetti westerns or the Wild West or the cowboys. I'm not the biggest fan of that genre. Even like the movies and things like the old John Wayne movies, I'm not the biggest fan of that genre, to be honest. But playing this kind of gets me interested to play the Western version as well, the Drifter. So I highly recommend, having a look at these. Now, here's the thing. The books are big. It's going to take a lot of paper to print these out, a lot of ink. I mean, I think this is, 275 pages, something like that. If you have a tablet or a laptop, I actually recommend not printing because the PDF has been designed with a very good, what are they called, hyperlinks? It's got a very good link system within the book, within the tables, within the events, where you can easily click and switch from where you are to where you need to go. So if you're not kind of obsessed with having the hard copy like I am, and you're okay with using a tablet or a laptop, these games, Star Drifter and the Drifter, are actually very well designed to use on the PDF format. What else? I think print on demand for Star Drifter is coming soon, so that could be another option if you're living in a location where shipping is not prohibitive. For me it is, being this part of the world, shipping is crazy, so I have to be very selective and choosy in terms of what physical products I can actually purchase and get shipped here. But Yeah, I like hard copies, so I printed mine out, but be warned, it's a big, big, big file. Barbarian Prince, again, yes, if you've played Barbarian Prince, this is very much a very similar design, but the mechanics, the rules are different, and I do find them a little bit simpler. Again, Barbarian Prince is a game that I want to bring to the channel at some point. I've printed the Barbarian Prince out, but there are a few things I need to prep first. But yeah, it is an adventure game, kind of in the style of Gamebooks, but there are story elements, but it's very brief, very simple. It's more about the events, more about the quantity. So what do we have? Well, like I say, if you want to, you can print the book out, but like I say, it's a big boy. You're also going to need to download or print out the file, which are the game sheets. That provides you with a character sheet, a ship sheet, an events sheet. What else? You're also going to get combat sheets for character and ship combat. This is where you basically put your opponent's information for the combat. And you also need a map tile where you can actually locate where you are. Now, with Barbarian Prince, it's a little bit more necessary to know exactly where you are. On the star map here, it's not critical in terms of knowing exactly where you are, but it is critical to know where you have these colonized planets, which are these dots. So I'll be plotting my location with a little token here. On the combat sheet, I'll also be using some little tokens to identify what's going on. Right, let us start. Now, in this huge book, or the PDF, the first thing you're going to want to do is go to the start of the rules where it says start here. Clever, that, isn't it? And you'll basically read through here, and it's going to tell you what the game is. It's going to tell you what you're going to need, how to roll the dice, and then it will guide you to the first entry on the events book. Technically, there are two books here. You've got the rules, which is tiny. I mean, it's what, 16 pages? Very simple. And then the rest is what they call the events book, but, print it together. It's not a huge problem. Right, let's quickly read the designer's entry here in terms of what to expect. Okay, this game will be a new experience. You are about to become a character in a story that changes every game. And yes, I can vouch for this. There are, oh God, how many events? There are a total of 247 events. And I would say 98, 99% of them also have between 6 and 10 different occurrences. So you've got a huge amount of events here, and having the same story every time, I highly doubt it's going to happen. So there's a huge amount of variety here. Okay, you are a traveler in a fictional galaxy. This is a solitaire game. You play it alone. In this story game, you read one numbered section after another. Again, very much like the game books. Yeah, like Final Fantasy, Fighting Fantasy, what's the matter with me? Each describes a new situation or provides rules about the choices and actions you can make. There are hundreds of events and situations, so each game will be new, fresh experience. And like I say, each of those events has a lot of options and possibilities within each event. So it's not just 200 plus events. You've got a lot more than that. Right. So go through that. That basically tells you what you're going to be getting into. The rules section then goes over character creation. It goes over your goal. Now, you have this thing called star points. There are two ways to play the game. The normal way is you've got to try and collect 10 star points. You get star points for doing memorable acts, sort of critical tasks kind of thing. But you basically, when you get 10, you can succeed and complete the game. However, you'll notice that they've also put here 10, 20, 30, all the way up to 90, because there is another way of playing this, and that's basically just to get as many star points as you can before you die. So obviously that could be a shorter or longer game, but the basic game, you've got to get 10 star points. Then it goes over ship creation, because you will have a ship as well. Actions, the different actions you take. Now, the basic premise of the game is that you have to do one action and then one event, and that is one turn of the game. So you can move on the star map to different locations. You can try to go to these colonized planets. There is, in the events, the chance to discover more colonized planets. There is also, I think, one of my previous games, there was an event where one of the colonized planets, basically something happened. I can't remember what happened, but the planet basically cannot be colonized anymore. It was either destroyed or irradiated, or something happened. So the basic premise is you do one action and then one event. Actions are fly to a new hex, heal, so you can basically try to heal your character, upgrade weapon, repair hull, so these are, repair hull is for your ship, upgrade thrusters, upgrade cannons, and then there are a couple of actions which are only applicable in certain hexes. So, for example, let's put it like that, a sector of interest. Now these are areas, like I say, where you can get a lot of star points, or is where you're commonly finding these star points, is where something momentous or something important is happening. And you can find these through events. So if you want to do that sector of interest, if you want to complete whatever's there, then that would be your action. There's also an action for when you're in a spaceport. So when you're in a spaceport, which is a colonized planet, there are a lot of other things that you can possibly do, obviously because there are people there or aliens there. And those different actions are explained in terms of what you have to do. Sector of interest, spaceport, yeah. For some of these pages, I've printed them out again as kind of like quick reference for me. So I've got all the different actions here on one. I've got some of the action descriptions there. I've also got spaceport and also combat initiative. Now I've printed these out and put them as sort of quick references in front of me, because I don't want to keep having to turn backwards and forwards to those pages, because these are used quite frequently. And then we have rules about combat, so there's character combat and ship combat. Again, we'll go through that when it happens. It's very simple to do, and like I say, I actually find this game easier to play than Barbarian Prince. I wouldn't say it's easier to survive, because we all know, again, if you've played it, Barbarian Prince is a difficult game. You can die very easily. This one seems to be a bit easier, but you can still die pretty quickly. Combat initiative, skill checks, and then just a reference for all the events. And like I say, if you're going to play this using the PDF, whether it's on a tablet or a laptop, this is a very easy reference point in terms of linking to the specific rule or to the specific event when you need to, or if you want to go back and check something. And then the rest of the document is, like I say, it's all events. This is all different events. There's such a huge variety. I mean, I've played this game a few times already, and the stories and the events that I've been doing have been so different. It's been amazing. It's been really, really good. But like I say, you don't have the half page of story to go with each event like you do with Gamebooks. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Once you've opened the book and it says, okay, this is what the game is, this is what you're going to need, it tells you to go to the first event, which is E1. And it says here, the adventure begins. Now, you come here before you create your character, because this is giving you a little bit of background in terms of your character, in terms of where you are in the game. So this is like the game intro. This is more the product intro. So, let's get started, shall we? Okay, the adventure begins. You are a talented pilot with a nebulous past. Your time spent away from your homeworld has been mostly taken up with performing dishonorable jobs for untrustworthy characters. Your most recent run-in with the authorities has caused you to question your life's current trajectory and has you feeling that maybe it is time for a course correction. Equipped with your ray gun, multi-purpose utility pad, and modest starship, you are ready to travel the cosmos in your quest for glory. The galaxy is vast, densely populated, full of odd planets, dangerous creatures, and intergalactic anomalies. There are humans and aliens that live throughout, in peace and also at war. You simply want to make your mark among the stars. And that's kind of the intro. I'm getting a kind of Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon, Firefly mashup feeling regarding this. Right, so now it says consult the entire section under R101 to basically create a character. So from here we now have to go back to the rules where it says here R101, and all the rules are labeled with different numbers. All the events are labeled as well, so it's easy to remember and to find. Let us create our character. Your goal is to acquire a total of 10 star points using the basic game. Okay, give your character a name. Right, I'm going to name my character Darius. Right, damage level. Okay, so at the top of the character sheet and also at the top of the ship sheet, you have these, let's use the pencil, you have these circles, and these represent your health levels or your damage levels. So you start on the first circle here, which is, let me move the token, none. So this represents you are perfectly fit, perfectly helpful. And then for the ship, it's the same thing. It represents your ship has no damage. And then you've got light damage, medium damage, heavy damage, debilitating damage, and destroyed. For your character, light, medium, heavy, debilitating, and destroyed. So what you'll do is you can use a marker. They recommend putting these inside a clear plastic folder or laminating and then using a dry erase marker, or you can use a pencil to mark it. I'm just using tokens because it just makes it a little bit more glitzy for the video. But yeah, as you take damage, you basically move your token or you mark on the sheet as you take more damage. Also, underneath the damage level, you also have these stats. For the character, it's called prowess. For the ship, it's called mobility. Now, as you take damage, whether as a character or as a ship, these stats will also reduce to reflect the injury or the damage to the ship. So for example, if I take medium damage, my character, that would also bring my prowess down to 3. I start with 4. If I take light damage afterwards, that would then bring me down another step to heavy, which now brings my prowess to 2. Now prowess is your physical ability, your ability to sort of fight, to jump, to run, things like that. Same thing with the ship. Once your ship starts taking damage, it will also affect your ship's mobility, the ability for your ship to move, to maneuver. So again, maybe my ship takes medium damage, so that represents 2 points of damage here. Now my mobility has changed. Now this is another thing about this game. For a lot of the abilities and skills and everything else, you'll notice that they don't use numbers to reflect the level. They're using these stars. 3-pointed star, 4-pointed star, 6-pointed star, loads of points. And on the tables, again, they'll be using these stars to represent, your skill's ability. Not for every skill, but for some of them, they use these symbols instead of numbers. Doesn't make any difference. It's just a different way of labeling, a different way of identifying. That's all. So let's say, for example, the ship has taken medium damage. It's undamaged at the moment. It takes medium damage, which reflects 2 points. And now the mobility has changed. Instead of rolling on the 3 point, if I need to make any checks, now I'm rolling on the 4-point star, so the next column. Also, you'll notice for the ships that there is a chance that the crew can take damage as well. So you'll also need to roll a dice to see whether the damage to the ship has also damaged your character. It's all labelled here very clearly. And again, let's say that the ship then takes another medium damage. Well, again, medium damage represents a 2-pointer. So 1, 2. So now my ship is at debilitating damage. It's in really bad shape. One more and I'm destroyed. My mobility is now this symbol. So I'll be rolling on these columns on the table with more chance of failure, obviously. And again, we have to roll to see whether the crew takes damage as well. But you'll notice, well, I don't know whether you'll notice, the text is a bit small, you may not be able to see, but at the higher levels, the dice roll is a lot more in favour of your guys taking damage, as you would expect. But yeah, and then you can use actions to repair, to heal, yeah. Right, so your health starts at the first point here, which is none, which means your starting prowess is 4. What else? Mind. Okay, so for mind, this represents your mental skills. So your prowess is at maximum on 4, and it goes down based on how much damage you take. Your mind, there are 2 ways to do this. Let me move the book so you can see. You can choose your mind score to set the difficulty of mental tasks. You can choose to give yourself a 1 mind, in which case any tasks that require intelligence are going to be harder, if you want to give yourself a bit more of a challenge. Or you can choose to give yourself a 4, which means you're very intelligent, and intelligence checks or mind checks in the game are going to be a lot easier. But that's only an option because they do recommend that you roll a d4. Now in this game, you're going to be using 3 types of dice. You're going to be using d10s, either as a d10 or as a percentage. So you roll 2 dice. You're also going to need a d6, a 6-sided dice, and a d4, a 4-sided dice. So for your mind, it recommends that you roll a d4. So we're going to do that. We get a 2. So it's not the worst, but it's not brilliant. What else is there? Right, the next thing we need to do is destiny points. Now, destiny points are like your, what are they called in other games? Luck points. I forget what they're called. They're basically points that you can use to re-roll any dice roll. You also need them to do certain actions like upgrading your ship or healing yourself. These also require the use of destiny points. Where are they? Here they are, destiny points. Now, you start the game with 2, you can have a maximum of 4. You can use them and lose them in the game, but you can also gain them in the game. But you start with 2, so they are a resource to be used. Next is weapons, right? So we start the game with a ray gun. Now again, you can upgrade the weapon, requiring destiny points. You start off at the lowest power, which is that 3-pointed star, but you can upgrade it to make it more powerful, which means you'll be rolling on better columns when you're rolling combat. What else have you got? You also start off with a, what do they call it? Auxiliary, a utility pad. It's like a tool that you can use to hack computers, unlock, decipher codes, things like that. So you can actually find, maybe the best way to explain it is like a mobile phone with apps. So this represents your utility pad, like your tablet, whatever. And these are apps that you can find to give you better abilities, better chances, bonuses, etc., etc. Yeah. What else is there? Lucre. Okay, so lucre is the currency in the game. You can use this to purchase things in events, in certain events. You may have to use it to bribe. You may have to pay off bandits, things like that. What does it say here? To start with any lucre. Okay, so to start the game, roll a d10 on the lucre table under the 3-star column. Right. So on the tables sheet, we have 4 tables. We've got an event table, combat, skill, and lucre. coinage. So it's telling us to roll a d10 on the 3-star column, which is the first column here. So we roll a d10, we get a 7, so it's basically telling me that I'm going to start with 6 lucre. Right, so let's take this, we're starting with 6 coins. Could be better, could be worse, it's okay. Right, what else do we need to do? Star points, we've done, we start at 0, we need to try and collect 10. Notoriety. I haven't had a coffee yet. Right, notoriety. This basically is the level of attention, negative attention that you have in the galaxy. Think of it as your level of wantedness by the police. This will affect things like events that you encounter. Each level of notoriety has its own column for the events. Obviously, well, I mean, it should be obvious that the higher your notoriety, the more dangerous the events are going to come. The more likely it is that you're going to encounter police and stuff, yeah? So we don't want the notoriety to be high. Now again, the game gives us the option to choose if we want. So if I choose 3-star notoriety, then I'm going to have an easier game. If I want a challenge, then I can pick the higher level if I want to. But I do recommend rolling a d4. So again, we're going to do that. So we're rolling a d4, we get a 2. Nuts! Because a 1 would have been the worst. So we're going to start off with the notoriety of the second highest. Okay, challenge accepted. My mind is the second lowest. My notoriety is the second highest. Yeah, challenge accepted. Now, that is your character creation done. We now move on to our ship creation. Now, again, there are some things which are always the same when you start. So you always start with a no damage, and then your mobility is the best. Your cannons also start at the lowest power, but again, you can upgrade so they can become more powerful. Your thrusters, let me move that out of the way for a second. There are 3 levels of thrusters, and this represents how many hexes you can move per turn. Now, you will start the game with level 1 thrusters, which means you can move 1 hex per turn. But again, you can, as actions, upgrade your thrusters with destiny points. I should point out that when you want to do upgrading, repairing, there is a chance, because it says to attempt to upgrade your ship's thrusters. All right? It's not guaranteed. And you should also be warned, bad things can sometimes happen. If you roll badly with the dice when you're trying to, for example, upgrade your thrusters, I think they can explode. So there's always a risk. But again, these things can be upgraded. So you can upgrade your cannons, you can upgrade your thrusters, you can upgrade your weapon, your ray gun, or whatever weapons because you can also find other weapons as well. But all of these things, there is a chance you are attempting to. What else we got? Fuel tracker, yes. You will have a certain amount of fuel in the game. There will be times you lose fuel. For example, when you fly to a new hex, you have to use one fuel cell. There are also times in the game where you can regenerate or find fuel, or also lose more fuel. So again, this is going to be a consumable which we have to manage carefully. Now, we start the game with D10 plus 10. Okay, so I want this to be high. So I get a 6. So we start the game with 16 fuel cells. Okay, so above average. Right, sectors of interest. Yeah, down here you've also got a section where you can make notes of where you find sectors of interest. They're not necessarily going to be in the same hex as you, so you may have to travel to them. So this is where you can keep track of which hex they are, the name of the sector of event of interest, and then also the event number that it tells you to go to. And that is all the creation done. We now have our character Darius. We have our ship. Oh, I didn't give my ship a name. Let's call this Hellas. There you go. Right, Darius of the good ship Hellas. Right, and then in the rules, like I say, in the rules you've now got in terms of how to do the actions, how to do the combat, how to do the skill tests, and it's all there. It's very simple to do. You'll see it in use as we play the game. So we come back to where we were. We've created our characters. We now have to come back, because it does say that. Where does it say that? Where does it say that? Here we go. You may return to E001 and continue with the game. Right? So what does it say now? So we've done that. We've come back. Okay, what does it say? You holster your ray gun and make final preparations to your ship for intergalactic travel. Right, now we have to roll a d10 to determine which hex you start at on the map board. Now there are 10 possible starting locations on the board. Now I did actually mount the map on a piece of foam core because I was thinking of using like map pins, but I decided against it. I'm just using a normal token. Okay, so we're rolling a d10 to find out where we start the game. We get a 6, 24, 16. Right, so we come to the map board, 24, 16. Right. Now, this is a little bit of an issue we have. When you have hexes, it's always difficult to do X and Y because in one direction, like for example here, when you're across the flats, yeah, you can easily read down in terms of the column. So we're at which one? 24, 16. So we're starting over here, where X is 24. So we're going to start somewhere in this column. That's easy to plot. But since this is hexagons, when you're now looking at the Y coordinate, you're actually going across points. And it's not going to be a straight line. So you have to determine whether you're going to have your horizontal, whether it's going to go down from the number, or whether it's going to go up from the number. I'll put a little picture on the screen here to show you what I mean. But I'm going to go down in terms of how I follow the line. So it's at 24, 16. So we find the 16 down here. So the first hex is in line with the 16, but now there's no hex next to it, there's 2. So like I say, I've got to determine whether I'm going to follow high or low. I'm going to be following low all the time. So 16, and we've got 24 is here. So 24 is there. So 16, donk, 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 donk. So we're starting in this hex here. So I'm going to put my token there. So that's where we're going to be starting our game. I mean, an easier way to do it would be to have one plotting location across the flats, so you have these nice and tidy columns. And then for the other locator, you put at an angle, what is that, 30-degree angle? And then you read the other hexes in this direction. So again, you've got a nice line. But it's okay, it just requires a little bit of adaptation. So we're starting all the way down here. The closest colonized planet is this one there. And I think this is a good idea to sort of go in this direction in case anything happens to us where we need to repair or heal. And the starport does give us a lot of other options and events that can happen. So I think I'm probably going to be going in this general direction in terms of my travel. Now, things can happen that can detour me, that can make me go in different directions. For example, maybe I notice or I'm made aware of a sector of interest down here, in which case I may divert in that direction. But we're going to have to see how the game goes. So, my starting location is in this hex, 24, 16. And that is where we're going to start our game. Right, okay, so we've basically explained what the game is. I've gone over character creation, and I think I'm going to actually stop the video there because I don't want this to be an hour plus to begin with. So, Gameplay is going to start in the next video, so I hope to see you there. Like I say, just a very quick intro to the game in terms of what it is. But the gameplay will actually start and we'll make a lot of things much clearer. So I will see you in the next video. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. You know the drill. Please do that. And I'll see you in the next video. So take care, stay safe. Cheers.